Hello, everyone. I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today, and we're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. And our guest today is Vadim Khazan. He's executive vice president of Speke, which is part of ScribeAmerica. Welcome, Vadim.
Hey, John, happy to be here.
Yeah, excited to be talking with you. We talked with Speke 3 years ago. And in technology years, I think that's like two lifetimes. So, and obviously, we're talking about ambient clinical voice, which everyone knows is my passion. We'll see if anyone gets tired of me talking about it, but it's so transformative. So excited to hear Speak and Scribe America's approach to it. But before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about yourself and Scribe America.
Sure, happy to. So I'm a software engineer by trade. I've been with ScribeAmerica for about 6 years now. ScribeAmerica is the largest scribe company in the world, and we do in-person scribing, and Speak, which is a part of it, is a kind of our digital extension. And yeah, before I came here, I was a software engineer at AWS. I co-founded the company that ScribeAmerica ended up acquiring in 2018 or thereabouts. What we initially had was very different from what we have now, and I'm excited to get into that. But I've been kind of running the product tech, all of the Speed program here since then.
Awesome. Well, let's dive right into it. Talk to us of what is the Speak solution, and tell us a little bit of how it's evolved over time.
Sure. So it might be easiest to kind of describe how a clinician uses Speak. Kind of our thesis when it comes to product development is that the best technology lives in the background, and you don't even know that you're using technology. It just does whatever you want it to do, and you don't have to modify your workflow in any way to get the benefits. It's available on iOS devices. It's an application. Initially, it was kind of a standalone hardware device. So that's one of the many ways we've pivoted in the past 6 or so years. But the provider opens the application. They find the patient that they're visiting. They walk into the room, put it down, have a conversation with the patient as though a scribe were in the room with them. We take that audio, send it to our back end, turn it into a clinical note, and put it into their electronic health record system. They also have the provider has the ability to record follow-ups after they've left the exam room and, edit the note in that fashion. But that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Interesting. So talk to us how this compares to other ambient clinical voice solutions. I could do the list: Suki, Nabla, OnPoint Healthcare, Bridge, Augmetics, AWS Health Scribe, Nuance, Ambient Healthcare.
There are a lot of them.
It's a crowded space.
So we don't need to go into all of them, but I'll kind of break down the solutions available in the marketplace into two broad categories. There are solutions that have no humans in the loop. There are solutions that are hybrid. So they use technology and a human somewhere to create the note. When it comes to the AI only product, I guess it's kind of misleading to say that there's no human in the loop. In actuality, the doctor becomes the scribe because they have to correct the output of the LLM or whatever they happen to be using in the background. And this is true across the board. There have been staggering advances in natural language processing in the past year, which I'm sure everyone is aware of. But it's still not quite good enough to create the sort of notes that meet the quality bar for clinical documentation. But those solutions exist for providers who don't mind spending 10 minutes on every note correcting what the LLM puts out. You obviously have to be very careful, especially with hallucinations, to ensure that something crazy didn't make its way in there and cause all sorts of problems. The other one is the hybrid solution, and that's actually what we focus on, and a lot of the other companies that are in the space, including some of the ones who claim to be AI only. We use AI in the background to create a rough draft of the note. And then we have our trained scribe team edit the note, make sure it adheres to the provider's preferences. This is one of the things that we're very good at, just having human touch points at every interval of the process. So if the provider is not happy with the documentation, if they want it slightly differently, if they want to use specific templates or phrasing, we can modify all of that. We train our scribes to create the documentation exactly how the provider wants it. So I think that's kind of our biggest advantage. We have something like 20,000 scribes within ScribeAmerica, by far the largest pool of scribes in the world. And we make sure that there's just a human in the loop at every step of the process, including customer support. So if you've ever tried to, get help from a tech-focused, tech-only company, and you get stuck in some hellish maze of, automated prompts on the phone, and you're like, I could explain in 30 seconds to a human what I need. We want to make sure we avoid that. So we're kind of the white glove end-to-end solution. We have people you can contact for whatever your needs are, and we make sure that the documentation is exactly how the provider wants it, and they have to do very minimal editing at the end when it gets into the EHR.
Interesting. Let's talk about the workflow. You mentioned it a little bit. You're on iOS and there's an application they can use to record it. I think everyone's pretty clear now. You verify it with the patient. Are you okay? I think we know that process now. What else is involved in the workflow? Does it go automatically to the EHR? Does it, how long does it take to get the note generated? Talk to us about some of those workflow elements as well.
Sure. We offer EHR integrations, both read and write, but again, because of the strength of our back-end labor, we don't have to start with that. And that's another advantage. Sometimes EHR integrations can take 6-12 months because the hospital system's IT team is always busy, always understaffed. But we could get up and running much, much faster than that, and just have the scribes have remote connections to the EHR, remote logins. They obviously go through the appropriate accreditation process with the health system. So if a system wants to get up and running as quickly as possible, we start there. The audio and the note, we have a dedicated backend for our scribes to view all of these things coming in. They'll edit it, and then they'll manually put it into the EHR.
Interesting. And how long does that take? On general, obviously, I'm sure there's some variation. Are we talking 10 minutes, an hour, 3 hours? What's it look like?
Yeah, the SLAs are different depending on the client needs. If they need turnaround times that are within an hour, we could do that. If they're okay with longer turnaround times, that's also fine.
Interesting. So it's by the user.
Yep.
That's cool. And talk to us about the humans. It sounds like that's obviously an important differentiator for you. You are using technology to enable the humans. That's the AI that's involved. And then the scribe, goes through the note and reviews it and verifies it all. Is that the main approach as far as technology? And do you think you'll ever replace the humans, or is it kind of long term? You think you need both?
It's hard to predict long term because things are moving so quickly. I'll say that technology wise, we're basically where all the other top companies in the field are right now. I very strongly believe that the best LLMs in a couple of years are going to be open source. So everyone is going to have access to that technology. You already see this happening in speech to text, where maybe 10 years ago, it was only the AWS, Microsoft, these top tier firms that had their own speech to text engines. And now the best speech to text engine is open source and freely available. I think the same thing is going to happen with LLMs in a few years. So tech-wise, we're kind of on a level playing field. The scribe piece of it is, they're trained by ScribeAmerica. They tend to be pre-med students or people who are interested in going to medical school. So that's kind of yeah, who they are. And what you said is correct. It's right now our focus is on blending the two so that the benefits that you get from AI are presented to our scribes, and we do our best to minimize some of the downsides, such as hallucinations and just errors, all of that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
Mhm.
And you talked a little bit about integration with the EHR. I think it is unique that your scribe can essentially do the copy paste for which is many models of those in this space versus the integration. So the integration for you is again actually very similar to what you just described. Is if you integrate with the EHR, you're taking that burden off of the scribe as opposed to off of the doctor, because you've already removed it from the doctor. Is that your approach? Is that, as you continue to grow the business, to do some EHR integrations that, help the scribe improve their efficiency? Or is that the method?
Absolutely. Yeah. For larger customers, we definitely want write integrations because that definitely, even if we still have the human in the loop, the scribe in the loop, them being able to edit the note in our system, not have to log into the EHR, not have to go through a clunky interface. And, they're all different. Some of them are very outdated. So being able to write the note in a system that's specifically designed for scribes is beneficial. So for our larger clients, we do like to do write integrations when possible. Again, the limiting step there tends to be the time that it takes to integrate with these systems.
Sure. And
Yeah.
whether the EHR even allows you to, which is, I think they're going to be forced to with this industry. So
I think so.
I think that's a good sign. And I guess I assume if it's the scribe entering the data into the EHR, you can work with all EHR. Is that fair to say?
That is, as long as they offer remote connections, which
Sure.
almost all of them do. Probably all of them, because they're even if they don't, there are ways to get around that with like Citrix or one of these remote clients. So yeah, we work with all the EHRs.
And what's been your experience with clinicians? Do they need to change the way that they're talking in the exam room to make Speak work effectively for them? Or, what's the training model for them that, so they can use it effectively?
Yeah, we want to be as unobtrusive as possible. Having said that, they do need to verbalize a little bit more than maybe they're used to. If they've worked with an in-person scribe before, it's very similar.
Gotcha.
But really, we just tell them whatever you want in the note, just make sure to verbalize it at some point. If you forget, that's okay. You can record an addendum after the fact. We have a system within the application that if there's missing information in part of the note, the scribe can see, hey, you said you were going to do a physical exam. I didn't hear the physical exam. Can you record that part of it for me, please? So that's really, obviously we can't, our scribes can't put in what they don't hear, and they're not licensed medical professionals, medical doctors. So the doctor has to say whatever's going to be in the note.
Gotcha. And how do you look at accuracy of the solution? Obviously, you have a unique setup because you have the accuracy of the AI, but then also the accuracy of the scribes, who are human as well and fallible. How do you evaluate kind of the accuracy of the solution? How many edits the doctor has to make, even of the scribe reviewed note?
Yeah, so we have a robust QA process where our more senior scribes will regularly look at notes that the other scribes created, and they'll kind of evaluate them next to what, the goals, really take their time and make sure that everything is correct. If there are things that are missed, they'll give additional training and feedback to those scribes. We also have a feature to rate the note quality within the app. So the provider can rate it on 1 to 5-star scale in a couple of different categories, record a brief sort of memo about what went well, what didn't in the note, and give us feedback about how to improve the note quality. So that feedback loop exists as well. As far as wrong, and we also do regular surveys with all of the customers that we have just to make sure that our scribes are performing the way they should. They're adhering to the provider preferences, and again, because we have those human touch points everywhere, a provider can interact with the scribe team. They can interact with the site manager. If the documentation quality isn't up to par, they can reach out to someone and they'll immediately do something to fix it.
Interesting. And talk to us about specialty and how, does it work for every specialty? Do you have certain specialties that's better? It's interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting question. How many, I think Scribes worked with every specialty before this, but yeah, how are you approaching specialties?
Sure. So we work with all inpatient specialties. We've done some testing in the emergency room as well. There we find that live scribes just tend to perform better for a number of reasons, but that's a solution that we're working on. I don't think it's quite there yet. None of the tech solutions are perfect in the emergency department, but we're getting there. But again, because we have the labor in the background, we can work with all of the standard specialties that regular scribes work with. We're expanding into veterinary medicine as well. So basically, we cover everything.
Interesting. And I probably should have asked this when we were talking about the humans in the loop, but I just feel like it's an important question to talk, because one of the challenges is the price, especially the price of, we've heard with scribes. I'm sure you've heard that over the years with 20,000 scribes. They love the experience, but the cost is question that a lot of people have. Are we going to be able to keep the cost low enough with AI enabled scribes, if you will, to be able to make this accessible for everyone? Or how do you see that kind of pricing loop go?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our goal is definitely to build the system in such a way that as the technology advances and as our scribes become more efficient, we pass those savings on to the consumer and open it up to a broader market. When the tech gets to a point where we think it's good enough in a standalone fashion without a human in the loop, we might offer that product to people as well. But there's a trade-off. It's are you willing to spend less as a provider and use more of your time to edit the notes and finish the notes, or do you want just the premium white glove service where you pay a little bit extra, but then you basically never have to worry about fixing any of the notes?
Yeah. It's a good way to define the choice that they're going to have to make and have to evaluate. So very interesting. Well, I am sure, like I say, with all these ambient clinical voice solutions, people are going to want to know where they can go to learn more, probably get a demo, see what it looks like. Talk to us about that. Where can people go to learn more about Speke?
Yeah, so people could go to scribeamerica.com. And there are links to Speke on there. If you're impatient and want to skip directly to the Speke page, it's scribeamerica.com/Speke.
SPEKE. Yep. Great. Well, Vadim, I appreciate you taking time to share this perspective and what you're working on and the evolution of Speke. Ironically, when I interviewed Speke 3 years ago, I said I was obsessed with this technology, and I guess my obsessions last for a long time. So
well, this is an exciting time to be following it. I mean, so much is changing. It's a great time to be in this field.
And it's ironic because I did that 3 years ago and I was excited about it, but I'm even more excited now. And I still feel like we're just at the beginning, right? Like that's amazing.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Vadim. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcasting applications. Thanks, Vadim.
Thanks, John. Take care.